Hi students, welcome to week 3 of English 1301. We have got a lot to cover this week. This is a 5-week course, so we've got a lot to get through. I would go ahead and pause the video, grab a pen and paper. You'll need to take notes. Alright, so hopefully you're here. Please watch this entire video. It will help you out this week. There's a lot to get through. Okay, that is step 1. So if you make it through this video, congratulations. You're done with step 1 for this week. Now, your first real major essay is due this week. If you're in this Summer 1 course, it will be due Thursday, June 17th. That might change depending on which course you're in. But obviously, you have a week to complete this, your first real legitimate essay. So, how do you write essays? Well, I break it down for you in these steps. Step 2 and step 3 cover an introduction. Every essay begins with an introduction in which you introduce the subject and conclude it with a thesis statement, which is the main idea of your essay boiled down to a single sentence. So steps 2 and 3 go over how to broach introduction paragraphs to any essay. So make sure that you check those out. In step 4, we'll go over how to compose the remainder of your essay, which includes body paragraphs. Those are any paragraphs that come after the introduction, but before the conclusion, which is obviously the last paragraph in your essay. So this week we're covering introduction paragraphs, body paragraphs, and conclusions, which is great. But you also, now that you're in college, need to format your essays according to certain guidelines. For this class, we're going to use Modern Language Association, or MLA, guidelines, and we'll go over that in step 5. Step 6 is the actual essay prompt. Remember, that's the instruction sheet, which lays out everything you need to do for the essay. There's also a PowerPoint here in step 6 over what to cover specifically, because you're going to be writing about famous images for this essay. And then in step 7, this is where you will submit your particular essay when it's done. You'll also want to check the rubric here for this assignment, and you can kind of grade yourself. You can check your essay against the rubric, which is just criteria for how I will grade it. And if you've covered all your bases there, you should get an A. All right, so let's get started with introduction paragraphs. These are obviously what you do to introduce your topic or introduce the main idea of your essay. But how do you do that? Well, think about what an introduction should accomplish. It's a roadmap for your entire essay. It sets the tone, it catches the reader's attention, you're providing background information and context, and you're establishing the focus and purpose of the essay in your thesis statement. There are 3 items that basically go into this one paragraph, and these items are a hook, background information, and a thesis statement. So let's break that down a little further. Let's look at hooks. Hooks are important. They're the first sentence or first few sentences that should grab the reader's attention. They should be interesting. So how do you make it interesting? Well, you could include a surprising fact or statistic that's related to your topic. That might take a little research. You could find a quote, a famous quote that is related to your topic, or a brief, interesting anecdote, which is a short story related to this topic that you're writing about. So these are all ways to begin an essay if you want to begin one effectively with a compelling hook. And it's called a hook because it grabs the reader's attention. This is how you do it. Here's what to avoid in your hooks. No cliches and generalizations, no definitions. Please do not begin any essay with a definition. That is deadly, it's boring. Your reader will check out and not be interested in whatever it is you have to write. Avoid sweeping claims that use words like always and everywhere. Instead, try something like research suggests. Remember, you're writing formally, you're writing academically, so you're not generalizing anything. You'll also want to avoid starting your essay with a question. In fact, avoid questions in your essays at all costs. Now, generally, these are rhetorical questions, meaning you're not literally asking the reader for their input. You're making a point with your question, but avoid those. There should be no question marks in essays. You want to look like you have all the answers. So avoid these things for your hooks. The very first few sentences of your essay, include these instead. After your hook, in the same paragraph, the introduction, comes context and background information. Now this could be historic, geographical, it could be sociological. Whatever the reader needs to know, whatever the background of this topic is, spell it out for them. You might include definitions of unfamiliar terms or a summary of current scholarly debates, theories, or research. Again, background information and context, that's just what the reader needs to know in order to make sense of the rest of the essay. Don't get into too much detail in your introduction. Paragraphs are generally 5 to 7 sentences, roughly speaking. So save the details and the analysis for your body paragraphs. Just give us a broad overview of what this essay is about and the context and background information of the introduction. Finally, here's an example of an introduction. We've got the hook in red, the background section in blue, and then we'll take a more in-depth look at thesis statements, which is how you end an introduction. Here it's written in green. So this says Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope ranks as one of the world's most successful films of all time, having grossed $775 million worldwide since its release in 1977. This is called a parenthetical citation. You don't have to worry about those quite yet, but later on you will. This is just letting the reader know the last name of the author and the page number they found this information on. What makes this an effective hook is that it's interesting. Here we have this movie, Star Wars Part 4, that grossed $775 million since its release way back in 1977. Now that's a specific bit of information I need to cite, but it's interesting, it's compelling, it's a fact, an interesting fact about Star Wars. I'm interested, I want to keep reading. So I'll move on in my introduction paragraph to this blue section here, which is background information. You can read that on your own, I won't read that to you, but they're taking a historical approach here. They're laying out some film history, going all the way back to the first film, Sneeze, made in 1894. So this is all relevant information and background information on what this essay will be about. Finally, we get to the thesis statement, which is the main idea statement boiled down to a single sentence. Star Wars connects to and reshapes cinema history most prominently in 3 ways: narrative and cinematic style, genre, and auteur theory, whatever that is. This was a film class essay. So film class readers would know what auteur theory is. But all this sentence is, it's an arguable statement, meaning that someone could argue something else about Star Wars. They could say that it's important for other reasons. But it's the main idea of this essay broken down into a single sentence. So that's introductions. Let's take a closer look at thesis statements, which is how you end your introduction. And that information is all right here. You need to include, I would say, these first 4 bullet points in your thesis statement this week. Your specific topic, the point you want to make about that topic, points of discussion that you plan to include in the paper, and then a strong, arguable, remember thesis statements are arguable, position. Position is your opinion on something, or what you believe to be true about something. So make sure you go over all of this. There's also a quick video about how to compose thesis statements. And that will take care of your introduction. Now let's take a look at body paragraphs and conclusions. The main bulk of your essay arrives in the body paragraphs. This is where you get into the nitty-gritty detail of what your essay is about. Well, how do you approach body paragraphs? And remember, one paragraph is one idea. So this should all connect back to your thesis statement, all of these individual topics that you cover in the body paragraphs. One paragraph equals one idea. And a way to think of this is to think of the state of Texas when you're writing body paragraphs. And that breaks down to TEXAS, your topic sentence in which you introduce a topic, the topic of the paragraph. E, in which you explain a little bit further or elaborate on that topic sentence. Give an example of whatever this topic is. That would be the third or fourth sentence of this paragraph. Then you need to analyze, meaning break down, interpret for the reader what this example and what this topic means, and then summarize your paragraph before you move on to the next one. So if you're ever stuck writing your body paragraphs, remember Texas, this is how you approach it. And there's more to that PowerPoint, but for the sake of brevity, I'm going to keep moving on. You can look at all this. If you have any questions, let me know. How to write your conclusions is also available in step 4. Conclusions are important. You basically restate your thesis, summarize your main points, and then offer a strong final thought. You will need to format according to MLA, Modern Language Association. Here's an example of an MLA formatted paper. Now, all of your essays for this class should look like this one. These green and purple boxes are indicating what goes where, basically. You have what's called a header. So each page should include your last name and page number, the top right corner. If you're working in Word or Google Docs, just go to Help and search for header, and you can format it that way. H-E-A-D-E-R. This is called your heading. Yours should look exactly like this, but with your name here, my name here, Professor Kyle Smith, English 1301, and the date with the month spelled out. The day of the month goes before the month, and then the year in which it was written, no commas. You'll see that your text is double spaced. You'll need to include a title and center that text right there, immediately after the heading. Your title goes there. And give it an interesting creative title. Don't just title it essay number 1 or image essay or descriptive essay, whatever it is you're writing. Give it your own title, something that only you could come up with. The text you will see is what's called double spaced. So there's a line of space in between each line of text. This is crucial. Make sure that any essay you write for college is double spaced. It's easier to write, it's easier to give notes on. It's just how you write college level essays. Each new paragraph is indented, which means you have a white space here. There is no extra space between paragraphs. When you start a new idea or a new paragraph, just tab over to indent. Now we'll get to what's called Works Cited page when you have sources, but for this first essay you do not have any sources, so you don't have to worry about that. Just make sure that your essay is formatted and looks like this one. It is part of your grade. Going back to this week's module. Step 6 is what to include. It's what to write about in this essay that you're going to write about. You know how to write an essay. We've gone over introductions and body paragraphs and conclusions. These are instructions or the essay prompt. Make sure you read this. This will tell you exactly what to write. And this PowerPoint here is how to write about it. You're writing about a famous image or a famous photograph for this first essay. Instructions are here, and how to write about images is right here in that PowerPoint. That just gives you the vocabulary to include when writing about images. And then lastly, you will submit your essay right here. Step 7. If you have any questions, let me know. Have a great week.